It's a great foreign film, and it's about, basically stealing Jewish kids and baptizing them. But I could see that the way that people were lit, they really were chiseled out in the environment that they were in. It was going to be a bright kind of white piece of clothing that she'd be wearing. And so it was all about kind of working backwards from there and getting the contrast. Well, first off, I'd certainly like to retire at that place. Yeah, it's like setting up, the most beautiful countryside of England in this amazing home. And so you see why all those people want to be there. I mean, if you're going to retire, that's the place to go. I was in London visiting my son when it happened. My daughters called, they were in a panic. They had kids they had to find. You have this responsibility. You've been dad a long time. You've been, a husband a long time. For me, it's very, very important.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Kingdom of Dreams podcast, The Making of Stories. I'm your host, Jawad Mir. Today, my guest is cinematographer Don Burgess, who I've had the pleasure of having on this podcast over half a dozen times. He's been here to talk about Castaway, What Lies Beneath, Contact, Forrest Gump, 42, and today he's here to talk about Netflix hit murder mystery comedy, The Thursday Murder Club, starring Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, and Ben Kingsley. I saw the film last weekend and spoke to Don right after that and truly enjoyed the film, including the cinematography, the very naturalistic colors that reminded me of Technicolor and also the films from the 90s and the 80s. And we talked about the film, the lighting, the sequences, as well as the upcoming Robert Zemeckis film that he's working on with starring Jennifer Lopez, a potential sequel to Thursday Murder Club, and also how the LA fires affected him personally. So without further ado, here's my conversation with cinematographer Don Burgess. Well, obviously, we're going to talk about Thursday Murder Club, but you're also working on Robert Zemeckis' next film.
Mhm.
So that's really exciting to hear, and good to know that things are moving along.
Yes. Yeah, no, we are in Paris now to start shooting the movie, but most of it's being shot in New Jersey, which is the next, tax incentive state to aggressively go after the movie business. And so, but Bob wanted to start the movie here, just from the season, the time of year. We'd good to do it now than instead of at the end of the schedule, which would be after Thanksgiving before we'd have a chance to come back. So, um, it's challenging to start here in Paris, but what we've laid out, I think, is going to be terrific. So I'm looking forward to getting started.
That's wonderful. So you guys shot in New Jersey, and now you're shooting in Paris, and you're going back to New Jersey after that, or that's pretty
Right.
much a
So
wrap?
we've just prepped New Jersey. So
Oh, you're
we
prepped. Okay.
right. So we came here and scouted 6 weeks ago, to organize this, and then they've had all this time to kind of get it ready, and then we've come back for 2 weeks of shooting. Then we go back to New Jersey and begin our shoot there.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited about that. Are you willing? Is it public about this film, the Robert Zemeckis next film? Is it public announcement been made, or um,
I imagine
it,
it has. It's with Jennifer Lopez,
oh,
uh,
right. Yes, yes, yes. I did read about that. Yes,
last
yes.
Mrs. Parrish. Right.
Fantastic. Well, you know, just literally finished watching Thursday Murder Club. When I saw the trailer, it seemed intriguing. Then I started reading about it, just here and there excerpts. Wasn't really good reaction from audiences. At least the reviews are pretty decent, 76%. And then I just finished watching, and I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting it to be, with couple of little surprises and twists. Even when you think the film is sort of over, it's really not. And the cinematography, which you obviously were behind, just overall, the colors kind of felt like Technicolor, which I really, really enjoy and I cherish because I'm sick and tired of the monotone colors. I just can't stand them. And obviously the framework and everything that you use in terms of lighting was really, really phenomenal. So just want to put that out there first.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, I was fortunate to go to a premiere in New York City that they had just 2 weeks ago, uh,
Yeah.
and then my son was in London doing the DI for his latest movie, and so he got to see the London premiere
All
of
right.
Thursday Murder Club. So it was like an old-fashioned premiere in both places, with the stars were there and Chris Columbus was there. So, and an audience that he thoroughly enjoyed the movie. They had a great time. And in New York City, believe it or not, halfway through the movie, the fire alarm went off in the theater.
Oh
And so,
no.
yeah, so we were at the Paris Theater, right there by the Plaza, wonderful theater. And everybody stayed, which was great. And the movie played wonderful. I mean, it really was fun to see it in an audience, in a theater, up on the big screen, which was really a lot of fun.
Yeah. And there was a lot of Chris Columbus 80s and 90s feel to it, like the humor, the characters and the innocence. It was all there. Like I could pick up on it very, very easily, which was cool to see because you don't really see those kind of films that often anymore.
No, I mean, when you used to, when studios were releasing movies in movie theaters, they always had, X amount of comedies and then the dramas and the horror films and the superhero. So you had this, so you could always find a movie to see any weekend that had one of those types of films. And it's
Yeah.
fun to see that movie, especially with an audience of a couple hundred people, probably 250 or something like that, in that theater enjoying the movie together, laughing together, and you could feel the energy in the room. It was just fun to be a part of it. And I think that's what was great about movies and why we all grew up falling in love with movies was that experience. And I think there's so much of the younger audience that I don't think gets to do that. And even us, the older audience that used to when they used to make a lot more mature movies to release in theaters. So it's nice to see that. I hope one day it comes back.
Yeah, I hope so too. I just saw Jaws over the weekend for the first time in the movie theater because obviously it came out after before I was born, and it was such a great experience. I mean, it wasn't packed, but it still was, a lot of people there. And I knew exactly, I've seen that movie like God knows how many times, but still
Right.
being able to enjoy that on the big screen, the IMAX sound and screen, it was
Oh,
phenomenal.
phenomenal.
Yeah. So tell me about Thursday Murder Club. What was your process of getting prepared for this film? Obviously, it had several locations, but not too extravagantly a lot, like just limited locations, but still you had to work with production design and all that. Just to talk to me about the process of how it all began.
Well, Chris had been talking about doing the movie for quite a long time, but it took him a long time to get the pieces together because he just wouldn't move forward without that cast. And so getting the script right and getting that cast and shooting in England, and he was just, to him it just had to be done there with those people. So hats off to Chris for sticking to his guns and getting all those pieces together to make the film. And so a lot of those sets were built on at the lot at in London, which was great to be involved with a film where you could afford to build those sets. That like the old days, I mean, that was normal, to have that kind of opportunity to build those sets. The house itself, of course, was a very famous Englefield house, and we shot some of the rooms downstairs in the Englefield house. But the murder club room was a set build on location, that particular set, because of all the glass windows and tying it into the real house. So that was great. Great production designer, wonderful guy, very collaborative, and and the sets that he built on stage were gorgeous. I mean, and it was an absolute pleasure to light them, because there was just so much texture and so much detail, and really felt like you were in the environment. Um, I'm old enough to know how to light painted backing. Nowadays everybody, all I know how to do is put a blue screen out there. But those are all painted backings, and so that was fun. So it was like a lot of the old traditional kind of filmmaking, was brought alive. And Chris just had a great time. I mean, he really, I mean, and when the director's having a great time, it's hard not for everybody else to have a good time making the movie also. The cast was absolutely wonderful to work with. And, Chris turned to me about halfway through. He goes, I'm never making another blue screen movie ever again. I love this. I'm having a great time with these actors making this movie in real sets. And it's true. It really is a wonderful thing.
It is, and they get to work in the real environments, right? And I mean,
Mhm.
even though it's such a phenomenal cast, still, you have
Yeah,
to be in those
right.
spaces. I love the opening sequence, the lighting, the street, and obviously it was black and white, which I'm assuming you guys did in post. What was creating that? It was a short sequence, but still, you could see it was a lot of lighting involved and a lot of,
Right.
details. What was the process of setting that up and getting that going? How did you light that up and what your method was?
Well, Chris had the idea of doing it in black and white from the beginning, so that it gave me an opportunity to bring out some film cameras and shoot real black and white negative.
Oh, okay.
So ultimately, that's not what you're seeing in the movie, but I did
Okay.
test it. I tested, black and white negative versus color negative versus a digital camera. And um, truly the black and white film felt the best. And so I did, three or four different versions for Chris of what it would look like. Um, and then before we shot the scene, I think there was a lot of pressure. Well, I know there was a lot of pressure from the studio because just the fact that I brought out film cameras and we purchased some Kodak black and white film and had developed, the studio kind of freaked out. Like, wait, whoa, 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 what's going on here? You're not shooting this movie in black and white, are you, Chris? And so everybody was nervous about starting the film off that way, right? Because to them, people will click off your movie in a matter of seconds if they've, and if,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of successful black and white shows recently. So I think they were talked out of their position there. So, but then Chris said, I think I wanted, I don't want it purely color, but I don't want it purely black and white. Can I fool around with that? And I'm sure. So ultimately I ended up shooting, digitally. So it gave him the flexibility to do a colorized version of the scene. And so at the end of the day, I did both versions for him, a black and white version and a one that had color and tone to it. And he ended up using the black and white version, which I think turned out great. I'm very happy with it. It's always fun to have the ability to test all these different ways of making it look. And then ultimately, for Chris, it gave him the flexibility to kind of, you know, um, make sure that he was at the end of the day ready to commit to the black and white. And I'm glad he did because I think it works really well.
Yeah. And I won't lie, like when it started off, because I'd seen the trailers being completely like, full of colors and
Oh, yeah.
depth,
Right.
it kind of threw me off for a second, but I really loved the film noir kind of a touch to it that it had.
Right.
And then the starking contrast from the opening to the rest of the film, I mean it's amazing, right?
Right.
So lighting that up, like I know there was a little bridge arc and there was lighting in the back. I'm guessing that was all soundstage and everything. If not, please correct me. And how did you light that up in terms of the woman falling out the window? I'm revealing that because in the beginning of the film, and all the whole sequence, how it played out.
Right. So that was a set built on the back lot. So
Okay,
we shot it at night. It was a night exterior.
okay,
Right. And so the street was built back, maybe 50, 60 feet. Uh,
okay.
and then the rest was a set extension. Um, and so, it's interesting because we struggle with trying to find a real location that would work for the time period and the idea of what it needed to be. And it's something that we could get permitted and do when we wanted to do it. So ultimately, they built the set, for that on the back lot, at Shepperton Studios. And so that certainly gave me a much better opportunity to light it, how I wanted to light it. Um, and it's fun to, like you say, the film noir approach to it, I think was, for a cinematographer, that's always a lot of fun to do that, and um, the stunt involved of the girl coming out the window, I think works very well. They
Mm-hmm.
did a great job in selling that idea. And of course, it was right at the end of the movie, so it was the coldest night we had on the movie, as it always is when you do night work. And but ultimately, I think it worked out exactly how Chris had always talked about it, and then ultimately storyboarded that particular sequence. So all the pieces I think fit in, opening the story, of course, making the transition from that to the storyboard that the Thursday Murder Club puts together. Making that transition into the movie, I think works
Mm-hmm.
really well.
So you talked about that you did some tests on the film cameras, and how
Mhm.
close were any of them were close to what the final opening sequence looks like? And also, if you, because to my knowledge, I don't think you have done anything like black and white in any of your work. Correct me if I'm wrong, or at least film
Oh, I
noir.
think I think the closest thing I've gotten to do would be
Forrest
the
Gump.
well, no, well, yeah, I did do actual black and white there. You're right.
Yeah.
Some 16 millimeter actually. Um, some 16 millimeter black and white to match the documentary footage that was shot at the time, the George Wallace sequence when Gump's going to college. Um, but the Book of Eli would probably be the closest thing I've done to black and white of
Mm,
saturated movie that was also shot digitally. Um, and that was a look that we developed in pre-production, for the film before we got started. But no actual, besides moments in films, have I, had the opportunity to shoot a black and white movie. Maybe
so
one
to
day.
me, so to me that not because of black and white, because there was no black and white in the film Dick Tracy, which I'm sure you've seen, Warren Beatty one. Because that was a lot of like, kind of had a film noir kind of a feel, but it wasn't really black and white per se. So
Right.
that opening literally took me to Dick Tracy in terms of lighting and
Oh.
all that. So it reminded me of that, and that's why I was asking if you drew any inspirations or you checked any of the older films or any of the genre films to kind of get that, or you just kind of went in.
When I shot, well, I would say I was more film noir, from my background, in the film school days where we got to watch all those movies. I mean, that stuff always is just in your brain, so it probably came from that, I imagine. In
Mm,
my tests, you know, I had a stand-in that was in a white, they basically she was going to wear in that sequence. The stunt girl wore in the sequence, and the girl that I guess if we had a double and a stunt double, I can't remember how that worked, but maybe just a stunt girl. I don't recall. But anyway, the point is, I knew it was going to be a bright kind of white piece of clothing that she'd be wearing. And so it was all about kind of working backwards from there and getting the contrast and that we wanted to kind of set the look to it. So that's, it's like really pushing the whether it was the film or the digital camera to kind of extremes, to get that look. Uh,
mm.
and so it was kind of working from the image of her on the ground backwards, I guess, and then making the lighting of the set that leads into it, give it that feeling and the stark contrast at the end.
Nice. What was you have such an amazing cast, or Ben Kingsley, Helen Mirren, um, Pierce Brosnan, and Jonathan Pryce. Um,
Right.
uh, uh, any interesting, fun stories, fun moment from a scene or a set, or that you kind of stands out with, such a phenomenal cast, being in right in front of your presence that you want to sort of speak to?
Well, it was great to work with the quality of actor that they are all at that level. They're all brilliant. They're all amazing at what they do. And they're all just very, nice people, professional people, always very prepared. they work together so well. There's a lot of give and take in acting, I think, where they all just kind of fit into these parts. So it was a real pleasure to kind of sit and watch them work. Um, and one day, actually, it was the sequence that Ben Kingsley gives the eulogy, in the graveyard at
Hmm.
the end. And I'd read the scene and that was okay, and then on the day when we actually did it, watching his performance, it was so interesting because then all of a sudden it all made sense. Like I understood what the scene was about with him reading those lines. And I remember after, we finished the scene and I went up to him, I said, my God, that was magnificent. Thank you so much. Now I understand what this scene is about, you know. And he just gave me a little smile. And at the time, I didn't know it. But Chris, got up and spoke at the premiere, and he brought up that scene, and he said, Ben wrote that scene.
Oh, wow.
So there was a version of it that was in the script, and then there was a version that he actually wrote, which he performed in the movie. And it's really wonderful. It's a beautiful scene. So that's what those people are all about. They really love what they do. They're great at it. They're inspiring, and being all the age that they are to be so relevant in filmmaking and in their craft, I think it's really quite special.
One thing I will say about Sir Ben Kingsley is that, I've obviously seen him, and I'm sure you have, like as Gandhi, as in Schindler's List, the character he plays. I don't want to mispronounce it.
Mhm.
Sexy Beast, so many different characters, right?
Right.
In this film, I'm not trying to say that he's the highest caliber of the actor in the film, but he is Sir Ben Kingsley. He seemed like the most timid actor because of his character. Like he was so I could not tell it was Ben Kingsley. That's how great he was. Because he played his character so brilliantly.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you look at all of them, they all
Yeah.
have a bit of chameleon where they can go places. And then, for instance, if you've seen Mobland, which they did after we shot this, with Pierce Brosnan and Helen Mirren, who play husband and wife, that are
Yeah.
these mob bosses, right? And they're just the most horrible people in the world in that show. And in this, they're just the most lovable people in the world and so kind. I mean, it's so great to see them in the range that they have and how they can portray characters and where they go. And because when you talk to them and you meet them, they're just very nice people, just
Yeah.
happy to be showing up to work and doing their job. It's great.
I met Helen Mirren at TIFF about maybe 10 years ago. It was a part of a set of interviews we were doing, and she just came up to me and just started talking to me like no big deal. And, just again, that goes to show about who she is. And I haven't seen Mobland, but I just finished watching 1923, which is the Yellowstone
Right.
spin-off.
Yeah.
She's so different
Hmm.
and phenomenal in it. Like, she's the one who
Right.
carries the entire series, right?
Yes.
And have you seen
Right.
1923?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's such an amazing series. Um,
Yep.
lighting up any of the scenes that you did that for your favorite. I know it's hard to distinguish all the work that you do in one film, but something that you had fun lighting up, a scene slash challenge maybe, but mostly fun that you really enjoyed.
Well, Chris had me watch this movie in England when we were over there. He said, "Hey, go see this movie. I really like the way the people are lit in this movie." And this movie is one of it's a very dark story. And I don't remember exactly the name of the movie, but it was great. It's a great foreign film, and it's about, these uh, Catholic, basically stealing Jewish kids and baptizing them. That's what the movie's about. And it's very dark. but I could see that the way that people were lit, they really were chiseled out in the environment that they were in, and it was really very well done. And so here I am, with this comedy script in essence, this lighthearted comedy with some heart. And so I looked at that and I just had to laugh. I said, only Chris Columbus could have me watch this particular movie, you know, and then that's our starting point. Um, but that's Chris. I mean, he is great to work with because he's a writer director and he's done so much, and he really loves what he does. And you can joke with him a lot, and so ultimately, that was the basis for the lighting design of the show. So if you see it a lot, I mean, you see it in like in Helen Mirren's apartment, I mean, we place her husband, by the window playing chess, and so it allows me to give this nice, strong side key scenario where we can let the room fall off a lot and the characters play very strongly, in those environments. So it allowed me to, I think, um, in essence, there was never the chance I was going to light it like a comedy. I guess I'll just put it that way. You're lighting it, um, and you believe, in the story that you're telling, and that the humor comes from life in general, the irony of life in general, and who these people are and how they all come together and how it all plays. So it's never played, slapsticky, I guess is the way I would rephrase it. I would always say that they were always playing true to themselves, like Ben Kingsley in the way that he played his character, right? Yet it comes across very humorous at times, yet he's playing, dead straight, right? And they all are, I believe, and yet the humor is all there. It's great. So as far as lighting goes, it was really enjoyable to kind of give it a proper look, I should say. That's what the English would say. It's a very proper look done. So, oh, okay, I guess that's good.
So in the interiors, were you using any, I mean, there was a lot of windows, a lot of daylight was coming in, right? But were
Right.
you using any other lighting at a distance or reflectors or anything like that to kind of just make things a little bit more lit up?
Um, sure. I mean, I between the house itself, the real house, and the sets,
Yeah.
on stage. I always had, some very big outside. I'd be using 18Ks, and on the stage they'd be 20Ks. Always big lights, and create as big a sources as I could in the situation, and balance at the house with the outside, which you see out the windows. So you're kind of finding that level of making it feel, I believe, realistic, yet I'm still dramatically lighting the actors to make them look strong in the frame and feel that they're moving in a space that's naturally lit. Yeah,
Right.
there's a lot of lights out there and a lot of
No, no,
cameras, a lot of
I
guys.
figured I just have to ask. It's just my
Yeah,
habit to ask. I
for sure.
figured as much, but
Yeah, but it's there's a wonderful gaffer and key grip and all, a lot of people that are involved in the team. The camera operator's been with me a long time. He's moved up to be a cameraman now. He's wonderful. And the focus puller's been with me on probably 5 or 6 films in London. And so, I've been able to put together just a wonderful team of people, to make that look come alive in the movies. And it's great. It's great. It's great working with people on both sides of the camera that are really good.
yeah. There's a lot of trend. Only Murders in the Building, which is like a murder mystery, like a
Right.
podcast, and there's
Right.
Knives Out. I've seen the first season of Only Murders in the Building. I've seen the first Knives Out, and one of the things I really like about this film, obviously the lighting, the characters, but it sets in the senior world, for the lack of a better word, like it's the older people.
Right.
Basically, where you are in life right now, in terms of your career, has spanned several decades. how much relatability did you have with the characters, not just the main characters, but everywhere you were? Because, at the end of the day, it's something that I feel that you can resonate with at a personal level in some ways. But any particular things that kind of stood out for you besides cinematography about the characters, the story, and the environment, the people that were in it?
Well, first off, I'd certainly like to retire at that place.
Well, that's a good one. Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like setting up, the most beautiful countryside in England in this amazing home, and so you see why all those people want to be there. I mean, if you're going to retire, that's the place to go. So that's always fun. I mean, that's something we do in the movies, which is great. We kind of create these places and experience that you want to go to. Um, you know, it all makes you think about your life and where you are in your life, and how many more years am I going to be making movies? I mean, I feel very fortunate. I still love what I do, and I'm still getting the opportunity to make movies. And so when you see all these characters get together and they're kind of saying, "Hey, listen, as a group, you know, we're kind of smarter than the rest of the people in this movie. We're figuring all this stuff out." And I think that's terrific. It's like, all of us want to stay relevant for as long as we can. And those of us that have been lucky to have professional careers, that even after this many years, we still look forward to the next one, is very special. And I cherish it. So I think, if anything else, in this doing this film, it enforces that idea of enjoy this while we still have the opportunity to do this, to tell our stories. And I think it's a positive thing for um, people my age, people 10 years older than myself, and people 10 years and 20 years younger than myself, to kind of, see this and find something in it, that you can connect with. And that's usually why the film will become successful, because it connects to a lot of different generations at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting you did Here, which was
Hmm.
not necessarily about old age, but that's where the film sort of pans out to, right, over time.
Right.
And
Right.
now you have done this. Does it, again, I think I kind of asked the question already and you kind of answered it, but does it sometimes hit you that, because sometimes when you're working so much and you love what you do, you forget about time passing by? And does it
Yes.
give you that reminder that, oh, shoot? Time has passed. I don't know if it sounds an awkward question, but I'm just because obviously I'm gonna get to that age, and I have from my ta past 20 years, right? Like time
Right.
flies.
Yes. Yeah, it certainly does. And look, you're catching me at a time in life where, you know, life is what happens to you while you're planning other things, which I think was John Lennon perhaps said that.
Yeah.
Um, because, this tragedy happened in my life and my family's life recently with this fire. I mean, not
Hmm.
only my house burned down, all my kids' house burned down.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Oh, sorry
Yeah.
about that, man.
Yeah, yeah. So we're all going through this big transition in our life of well, hold on. And so the way I've approached it and the way that I've tried to, you know, be a husband, be a father, is say, hey, listen, you know, the best stories, told have a third act twist that nobody anticipated. And so here we are, what this is going to define us, of how we react to this, what we do next. And fortunately, we're all in it together, because you do need to lean on people. You do have days where it's not going well. And fortunately for me, I have this wonderful family, and we're, all going through this together. So it's a lot about life has been brought into a very sharp focus of where I've been, what I'm doing now, and what's next. So I'm working for Bob Zemeckis, Chris Columbus, James Wan. I'm working for wonderful, wonderful directors. And I think as long as I have the opportunity to work with those types of directors that I think are very special, um, that I'll keep going as long as the phone
Keeps ringing.
keeps ringing, and my health, knock on wood.
You talked about losing your home. Sometimes, we watch news. We hear whether it's in our country, in our town, or another country, people losing homes, whether it's through war, through floods, whatever, right? Or somebody gets murdered that somebody is close to you. So it just kind of gives you a wake-up call, right, about life. We just had somebody in our community last week that I had met several times, literally just in the middle of the night, people came in, broke the window, shot the guy, and left, and shot the guy right in front of his kids. And I knew this guy, and it's the first time I've know somebody close. I wouldn't say that close, but close enough and it kind of wakes you up. When you lost your home, and this is a very dumb question, I apologize. What was that feeling, you have to lead your family, you have to be there for them, but you have to be strong, but at the same time you're a human being, you know.
Yeah.
That what I can't even imagine losing a home, I don't even know what I'm asking. Sorry, Don. Um,
Well, look, I mean, I was in London visiting my son when it happened. He was there shooting a Mark Wahlberg movie, Michael
mm,
talked to it. And so we were there together, you know, waiting for the axe to fall because my daughters called, they were in a panic, they had kids they had to find and make a run for it, literally out of the houses, and grab the kids and go. They didn't have time to take anything. And my son was with me. His wife was there. We were all very stressed out about what happened. Now, fortunately for us, everybody's okay. Everybody got out. Everybody had places to go. Family that would take them in, and and so for me, it was, I think, you have this responsibility. You've been dad a long time. You've been, a husband a long time, and I think that um, for me is very, very important, um, to be that person. And I had a great mother and father, and I had a father that had polio. He was in an iron lung for 6 months, and then carried on with his life and marriage and had more kids, and so and so a lot of, I think, my strength comes from what my parents lived through, because they were depression kids and they went through World War II, and they went through a lot, you know. I mean, my life has been my life is, I grew up in Pacific Palisades. It was a sleepy little town where you knew everybody that lived there, and you went to the local schools. And so we had, I'll call it a Leave It to Beaver kind of upbringing, of family. And so you tap upon, I think, all of that when when tragedies happen in your own life, and I think I've always had kind of a perspective on life of putting a positive spin on what happens. My glass is just half full. It's never been half empty. And I was just born with that. And I had parents that reinforced that idea. And so I just know we're going to land on our feet. I just know we're going to figure it out. And I know, and I'm very proud of my kids and how they've behaved and what they're going through. and taking charge of their own life, family situations, and we're all building back in the Palisades, and you know that's our goal, and it's working. It's not easy, but it's all working. It's all coming together, and so I think as a parent, I'm as proud as I've ever been of my kids, just in the way that they're handling this situation. So, I'm not sure that's where you wanted to go with that
Yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah. No, I got the answer. It's the thing is that, it's I'm so glad that you talked about the positive spin because I don't know what's the reason I'm like that too, is that when anything crappy happens, it's like, oh, at least this was not this bad. Like you just, and that somehow kind of puts down everything out of your sight. Does it hurt? Of course it does. Human being, right? But one of the things I truly admire about you, Don, and I've talked to you so many times. I mean, aside from your work and everything, that you, and I hate to say it to your face, but you're a wonderful human being. And not just because of what you just told me. You're a really, really amazing human being. And I'm glad that you have a great family who you have the ability to talk to and who listen to you, and this that unity there. So that's really amazing. And I think a testament to your humility is that you have an amazing family. So I just want to say that to you.
Thank you.
Um, I mean, we talked about Robert Zemeckis' film next a little bit. Anything else that's in development with, I don't need to know the title, but are there a couple of projects that are taking place simultaneously in development stage or that you're looking forward to?
Well, Chris wants to make another Thursday Murder Club.
I was going to ask you that. Good.
Yes. There are four books, right? And
Yeah.
so he had such a good time, and the actors, they all want to do it again. So that's a potential, I guess that's up to Netflix at this point, but I hear it's doing very well. So that's good. James Wan has been talking about doing Creature of the Black Lagoon, which would be fun. That would be great, to do
Nice.
that, So I'm not sure I know that he's been working on scripts and whatnot, so I'm not sure what the status is of that, but I hope that comes together. Um, Bob's always juggling things. You never know what's going to pop up with him. He's always got several things that he's got in development. Um, we're just getting ready to, start shooting this one. So um, it's a lot of fun for me to sit with Bob in pre-production because he really works hard at it. Really works hard at detail of every character, every set piece, every piece of clothing they wear. Everything has to be character driven, and he has to understand why you want to do it this way. You have to explain yourself. It's great, and so I love having that kind of dedication from a director that really, has a cinematic mind. He loves talking shots. He loves talking ways to do it. And he loves figuring those things out and coming up with, hey, what do you think about this not? If I start here like this, and then I come out of that, and we're cutting from this and thing, and then we end up over here, and now we see this, and what do you? So it's great, Bob. I love that idea. And if I put the mirror in the bedroom like this, when the character walks in, then we can see his face, and we can see her in the bathroom. We can have a connection there. What do you think? I'm like, I love it. Let's shoot. I mean, I love that he has so much fun doing that, figuring out his movie. Um, that it's an absolute pleasure for me to be, riding on that train, and helping him make his movie. It's great.
Well, 40th anniversary of Back to the Future is coming to IMAX in October,
Is
which,
it really?
yeah, yeah, I saw the trailer before Jaws. It's coming in October on the
Oh,
IMAX. So you got to go see that, of course.
yeah. So I started with him on Back to the Future 2.
Two, yeah. Which
Yeah.
will come in
In
40.
second
I think in
units.
the 5 years, it will be 40 years for
Yeah,
Back to the
two
Future
and
2,
three.
yeah.
Yeah, these 30-year reunions are starting to scare me.
Time, right?
Yes.
That I think that scares me more than anything else
Yeah.
that, it's been what, 30 plus years to Jurassic Park and 40
Yeah.
years to Back
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
Future.
And
Insane.
you know, I mean, look, that group of filmmakers from that era, because Chris Columbus sold his first script to Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Zemeckis, basically the same thing. In 1942 was Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis script, and
1941.
41, yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
42 was the my Jackie Robinson movie. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so it's just that group of filmmakers and what they were doing, and they all got started so young as directors. Chris sold that script. I think he was still at NYU Film School when he sold that script to Steven. And of course Steven produced, Thursday Murder Club. So to have, I got a great picture of the three of us standing there together. It's pretty
Oh,
great.
nice. Nice.
Yeah. When you're in England. So yeah, I just feel so fortunate that I've had the opportunity to work with, these people, because they just have made these wonderful films for years and years, and they're all the same. They love it. They still love it.
Well, I hope you continue to make as many films as you can while you can. And I will just say one thing. This is a more personal thing. You and I will be working together on a film together very soon. I have a feeling. I'm thinking about some things and I'll
Oh,
reach
great.
out to you. I would love to do that. I would love
All
to
right.
have you on board
All
to do
right. Look
that.
forward to it.
Just putting it out there.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you, Don, for your lovely time. I hope you enjoy your day in Paris today.
Yes.
I hope it's not raining.
Well, I got rained on already,
Okay.
but it was like I went to the Louvre today. I'm shooting in a location nearby there, so I did a little location scout just to see if everything still looks the way it did. And of course, there's things in the way. We got to get,
Yeah, yeah.
as there always is. But I ended up doing a wonderful tour at the Louvre today. I mean, a day off in Paris, it's tough to
You can
keep.
do so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been to the Eiffel Tower up to the top?
I have years ago. I haven't been there in a while.
Yeah, you should try that. It's amazing. I mean, I've been there long. It's lots of change, but just putting it out there. But amazing. Thank you so much again, Don.
Yep. You bet. All
All
right,
right.
good talking. All right,
Likewise.
take
Take
care.
care. Bye bye.